What's going on, guys? Sumner Healey from LIA. It's your three favorite land investing dinguses, joined by Michael and Colton. Today, we got a lot of really cool stuff that we're covering. So we're going to talk about subdivides. We're going to do a couple housekeeping items. We're going to talk about what to do when nothing's working in your land business. Mike's got some stuff from the trenches, some stories to share. Talk about some recurring issues that we're seeing with market selection with people in the land investing world and kind of go through and diagnose that. So if you are having trouble finding great markets, stick around till the end. Concerns on competition. We're going to talk about, is it getting a little too hot in here? Is competition eating our lunch? Newsflash, it's not. I'm going to talk about why that is. First and foremost, before we dive into it, a couple of really exciting things. So today is Friday, February 24th. We just released something super exciting in the LIA group coaching program. So we've brought on a sales trainer that's coming on for the group coaching group bi-weekly to literally call up sellers and make deals happen. What you'll see in this business is there's either folks that are really good at the data or really good at the sales. It's rare that you see people that are good at both. And so for the folks that are like, hey, I'm good at the data, but I'm not good at talking to sellers, or in some cases, like you've got a deal that's so good, the deal's a perfect fit, but the seller is the worst fit, right? And so we'll go and call those leads for you and try to work them. Super exciting. You can also bring call recordings and kind of have those calls diagnosed. We're going to go through best practices for sales. Really what we're trying to do here is make success as inevitable as possible, right? As much of a sure thing as we possibly can. So we got some really cool other kind of housekeeping stuff that we'll cover probably in our next call that relates to data, market selection, all that jazz. Anyways, how's everyone doing?
Good, man. Yeah, no complaints. Yeah, doing
Friday.
well.
Good day, huh? Party.
Yeah.
Nice.
Friday, decent weather today.
Yeah. I'm drinking some tea. It's freezing here in Las Vegas. But I'm going to talk to you guys about something that I feel like I've been beating this dead horse for a long time, these dang subdivide deals that we've been working. So finally this week, there's been two that we've been working for like the last 4 or 5 months. One of them kind of got slid back to the back burner. We did a title search. There's a cousin on the property. We can't get a hold of the cousin. The seller can't get a hold of the cousin. They do want to sell. We're just trying to hunt this person down. That's a really cool deal in Texas. This other deal that we've been working in Texas, though, right outside of San Antonio, 200 acres. We've been going back and forth to the seller for a while. It's like 6 sisters that are on title. They inherited the property. We were locking the deal up at 900. They came back to us and said, hey, we're ready to sign. We need 950. So we said, okay. We could do that, right? It's like a 5% bump on the purchase price. The land as is probably worth like 1.5, 1.6 in its current conditions. We've got a lot of equity built in. If we take it down to kind of our roadmap that we're shooting for, which is 20 10-acre lots, there's power already pulled to it. There's a well on it. There's a little house on it. There's part of a road already cut in. So there's some improvements. We're still going to have to cut it in a road, which will probably cost us 25, 30 grand is what I'm budgeting for that. Taking it down to 20-acre or 10-acre lots, 20 of them, it'll probably all said and done be worth like 2.7 to maybe 3.2. We're buying it for $47.50 an acre. There's stuff trading at $15K an acre, but I'm underwriting it probably closer to like 13 to 14K an acre. So super exciting deal. As you guys know, we're using bank financing on this deal. The trouble is, so my deal funder, they're going on the loan. I wasn't going to go on the loan. They only got approved for about 600K. So we're short a good bit. So this week I was filling out all these loan documents, total pain in the butt. So now I'm going to go on the loan with them as well. We should be able to get about 75% of loan to value on this, and probably put down 220K or so. So from a cash on cash perspective, you're looking at putting 220K down. We'll probably all said and done walk away with like 1.7 million on this deal, which is really exciting. Dang, it's been a long time coming. It's been dude, these deals are tricky, man, because the thing is that like we always talk about ROAS here, right? And I think from a ROAS perspective, these deals are better than any other deal you can find in the land business, right? We always talk about, 10x, 15x return on your ad spend, right? Put $1 in, make 10 or 15 bucks on the back end. On these deals, we're investing 20 to 30 grand on the marketing to acquire this deal. But that deal will still make us a couple $1 million. Like that's an insane ROAS. The trouble is the psychological shift of shelling out money, getting nothing in return for so long. And once you have these leads in your pipeline, like we're used to getting a deal locked up in maybe a week, 4 weeks. Once we have a seller in our CRM, we're talking like 4 or 6 months working these leads. The amount of back and forth contact is just wild. So that's a weird kind of mindset shift. But again, if I just the way I've been keeping myself sane is the ROAS. It's so good. So anyways, super exciting stuff. I'll keep you guys up to date as that unfolds. But let's talk about some market selection stuff, right? We've had so many folks join the LIA group coaching program in the last 60 days. And both people that are in our Discord and people that are inside the program, we get a lot of folks that have come from other programs or just kind of learned on their own. There's a recurring issue that I'm seeing with market selection, right? A lot of confusion around just, bad habits, right? Pulling counties, mailing at the whole county, and wondering why their ROAS or their yield from their mailers is so bad. Talk about what have you guys been seeing inside the group?
Yeah, I think I'll go first, Colton, I guess. A couple things I'm seeing. One, as far as to kind of start, I think people have kind of a tough time deciding what is a market, right? Like, is a market an entire city? Is it an entire county? Is it a little subdivision? And I think it could kind of be any of those three things, right? Like wherever. To me, a market is wherever I could find homogenous pricing, wherever I can figure out the pricing, that to me is a market. So it could be one subdivision, it could be a whole city, it could be a whole county. Typically, that's not the case. More often than not, it's kind of a one subdivision in a city or in a county or outside of a city. I think where a lot of people go wrong, and I've noticed in the group, is picking markets based on what they like.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the best way to do that, because you're not the one buying the land. I mean, you are, right? But you're selling. You're not the one buying it on the back end, right? We're looking for where just the general public wants to buy land. So I think looking for a market that you like isn't necessarily the best idea, but go where demand is.
Yep.
I mean, just because you like an area, there could be no sales in the last 3 months, and you're choosing that market because I just don't think it's the right way to do it. So I think focusing on where the demand is where people should be more looking, right? Rather than what they like.
That's a good point. I always tell people, I'm like, the market selection process is quantitative, right? And you're spot on. I define a market as a place where there's uniform pricing. That could be a place that has 12 properties or 1,200 properties. It's all over the map. It does range a ton. But what I tell people is picking a state is qualitative. You pick a state because you like the state, or because you know the state, or because you live in the state, or you used to vacation in the state. But once you start zooming in, that process is very quantitative, right? And we're just looking for demand. It's pretty darn black and white. And what you need to do is it's all relative, right? That's why we tell people, generate a list, build out a list of your prospective markets and compare and contrast. And which one is the best market? And at the end of the day, when we look at most of our data sets that we do in our business, I think it's probably true for you guys. We're looking at, let's say we do 20,000 or 15,000 mailers. It's comprised of a ton of really small mailers, right? And I like that process because, one, we can be really precise with our mailing, but also we're diversifying our risk, right? And so I think people get so caught up in this paralysis analysis of trying to perfect a mailer. Just get the damn thing out, right? For when we're looking at sending out 60 records, 200 records, 500 records, even the barrier to entry in terms of cost is so low, and the best feedback or the best data you're going to get is from actually mailing and getting the responses, right? When we're using Redfin or DataTree or any of these platforms, there's latency and it's out of date, right? It's a very small little window that we're getting. The best feedback you can get is from actually mailing. And so the scary thing is when people are trying to get to their mail goal with 1 or 2 mailers, I would say, okay, we'll get that right, and probably just don't do that entirely. But when you're taking kind of our micro mailer approach and you're really precise with it, the risk is low. Sometimes you just got to put the thing out there and get it out there. And so what I'm seeing on my end, 2 sides of the spectrum. One, people that have learned from other programs or what have you that a market is a county. It's not. And they're just mailing these huge data sets, and they're wondering why I'm only getting one deal for 5,000 mailers. Well, yeah, go figure, because 10% of the mailers actually priced correctly. Well, the other side of the spectrum, obviously, is people that are dude, they are trying to perfect their mailer and they're waiting 6 weeks to get the dang thing out. Just mail it, right? I was talking to someone inside the program last week. They had a data set of 190 records and they were trying to get it perfect. Just get the dang thing out, right? What about you, Cole? What have you been seeing out there?
Yeah, so I was just going to bring up, there was a couple guys in the group yesterday or the day before that were bringing this up, and it's touching on everything you guys are mentioning here, really trying to perfect those data sets or trying to apply the same methodology to every market. And it just doesn't work that way. So you just need to analyze the market. Some of them you can do larger data sets. You could do a couple thousand. It's all dependent on, what is the topography? What does that land look like? Is the pricing consistent across a large area? And there are plenty of areas like that. A lot of the rural vacant land is like that, where you can price out 1,000 offers and it could all be, pretty consistent. Then there's some where you want to dial in and get these smaller pockets and do maybe a couple hundred. I think mix and match of both of those is probably the best bet, but it's all just dependent on the market. You can't just apply the same concept to every single area. So just getting a good understanding of exactly what it is that you're looking for and how to price these things out. And then the biggest thing too, I think what you were just touching on, not trying to go too deep into it and perfect it. Like, one of the examples I was given was and I talked with you, Sumner, the other day about this, mailing a larger set, knowing that I'm going for the higher tier properties, the wooded properties in this area. There's going to be some properties that I'm way overpricing my offers on, a small majority of them, and you'll get responses back for both. You get the properties that you're actually shooting for. You also get offers from people really excited, thinking that you're offering them way too much for their land. But then you can just renegotiate those deals. And we still had plenty of those that have come through too, even if it's like close to half of what you originally offered. And it seems like, I mean, some people are just pissed, but some people totally understand when you just explain, look, this is what we're pricing our offers at. Yours is just a little bit different of a pricing tier or market value. And so this is what we can offer you. Some people just move right forward with it.
Dude, so much to unpack there, man. I think a lot of these issues are remedied by having an acquisition process or an acquisition team, right? Because our mail, it goes out there, the phone rings, and then the magic really happens thereafter, right? Just yesterday, we had a deal that we priced at $80,000 in Colorado. It's an 80-acre lot. We were so wrong with our pricing. I mean, we were so like, maybe we could sell a thing for $60,000 retail, like best case scenario. My team got it down to $22,000 and she signed. And she was like stuck, like, I want the 80, and she was really excited. But if you just frame it appropriately, like, hey, and what we always tell people is like, when we're doing our mailing, we try to be as precise as possible, but we can't account for topography, we can't account for road access, we can't account for flood zones, and people get it, right? Like if you just do a good job kind of explaining how you got there. Funnily enough, this is going to be our first subdivide in Colorado. So I'm going to try to take this down we can break it up into 4 lots, so 4 20-acre lots. And even breaking up into 4 20-acre lots still not worth $80,000. So be an interesting deal. But I think people try to get it so right on the front end because they just don't have any acquisition process in the back end, right? That's why we're such a big proponent on building an acquisition team and having a process around that. The other thing that I see to kind of unpack what you were saying, first off, too many people are trying to price places that are too hard. Like, this is not all mailers or markets are created equal. And there's a formula for your inputs and your outputs. Some mailers will take you 10 hours and will yield you $500 for your time per hour. Some mailers will take an hour and will net you 30 grand for that hour. Very, very different situations. I see newer land investors trying to pull markets with lakes in the middle and mountains on one end. It's like, how the heck are you going to price that up appropriately? And my rule of thumb, and they want to get it line by line perfect. Like, okay, I'm going to price the waterfront one. What are you going to draw? Like a polygon around each block and get that correct? My kind of stance there is, like you said, just price the thing as if everyone is a waterfront lot, because it's a catch-all. You're pricing the waterfront ones appropriately, so you can at least get those deals potentially. And you're going to get a boatload of people that are a few blocks away that really want to sell, and you just renegotiate those deals. Back in the day, I had the opposite school of thought where I'm like, I'm pricing at the lowest property because I want the best deal. The trouble was then I never got any big deals because I was just so far off the mark. So I never exposed myself to even having the chance to do it. Right. So I think for folks that are listening to this, it's like, hone in, stop thinking that a county is a market. It's not, unless the county has uniform pricing, which probably doesn't. Find markets where the pricing is uniform. Pick easy markets to price. Like, don't make it a difficult job for yourself, and be thinking about the inputs versus the outputs. If you're in a place that's tricky, just price high or use a range offer and price high based off of whatever the highest property is in that area, and then have an acquisition process, and everything else takes care of itself, you know? So that's my 2 cents there. Let's talk about when shit just isn't working. I think I can cuss on here. I don't know if I can. We've all been there before, right? Like, dude, I was there in November, there for a little bit of December, existential crisis, questioning my life. Things were bad, man. It was a deep, dark place I was in. Mailers weren't working. Stuff wasn't really selling. No good deals coming in. Mike, talk to us. Is that where you're living right now? What's going on?
That's where I'm living. Yeah.
What's going on?
It's so tough. Like, you have to just be constantly reminding yourself, like, when nothing's coming in, like, don't stop mail. Just like mail. And I look, okay, we mailed out 10,000 letters in January, and we're going to be like 11,000 in February. And it's just like, it's so frustrating, right? Like, nothing's coming in.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, like, well, we didn't mail anything in December, so I can't be upset that I didn't purchase a lot. I didn't even really mail much in November, so I can't be upset. and I don't get all these deals coming in January, February.
Yeah.
And I know because I've been in it long enough that like these ruts only last so long, right? So don't start making decisions just because like stuff's not coming. Like, right, don't stop mailing or don't not close on a property because there's, for whatever. Don't change your decision making process. Like stick to the plan.
Yeah.
So it's a big like mind game you have to play yourself, right? Like these are like, I don't know, these are like teaching moments. That's what I tell myself. Like it's a teaching moment. Like keep mailing, keep mailing, keep mailing. It'll all work itself out. But it's tough, right? Like mailing, it's relatively cheap, but it's not.
Yeah, it's up. That's up quick. You're doing 5 figures a month and mailing that you start to feel that after a while.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And I think that like we can get so jaded in this business because when you have a great quarter or a great few months and the mail is just working so well, you're kind of, everything's relative. You're just kind of comparing it to that, right? The reality of if you're in this business, you will go through hard times. It doesn't matter if you've been in it for a decade or you've been in it for 10 days. Like the hard times are inevitable and you can never escape that, right? I was just talking to my girlfriend about this yesterday. She runs a huge fitness coaching business. And they have like nearly 200 clients at any given time that are going through coaching with them. And for her, it's been like just kind of a slower start to the year. She doesn't know if it's recession related or what, but like she was used to, having 50 people join a month. And now it's like 20 people are joining a month, right? I got a reminder. I'm like, dude, this is the path of being an entrepreneur. Like it is so lumpy and bumpy and up and down. It's what we sign up for. It's like no business is immune to that, right? It just crosses over through every industry. And in a lot of cases, it's not because you're doing anything wrong, right? I feel like I have this mindset when things aren't working, I go into I need to fix it mode. And sometimes that's just the natural season of how things are going. The other thing that I found, I don't know if you guys have seen this in your own personal life, but anytime I go through a rough patch, boy, I just rip after that. I don't know when it happens, but like after those bad times, without fail, every time in my life, when stuff gets hard, stuff gets really good thereafter. And it just happens that way.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. I think when I started this business, right, like I knew things are probably going to go really well when I first started. That's just like typically how it happens. And there's a really, really big dip after. Like that in every business, there's just like this big dip. You kind of have to just like grind it out. And then you get through it and things go really well. And you feel like once you get out of it, that you're out of it, right? Like once I've gone through that big dip, like I'm crushing it, things are going smoothly. Like, but it always comes back, right? There's always like another dip, but you're totally right, Sumner. Like coming out of it, you do totally just like rip right through it, and things start to click, and you're selling a bunch of deals. So I know it'll come. You just have to like.
What I've noticed too is that like the deeper you get into it, the dips get bigger. Like there's more at stake. It's more like back in the day, you might have like, oh my God, I didn't sell. I sold 2 properties instead of 3 properties. But now it's like, well, I've dropped 40 grand on marketing and nothing's really happened over the last 2 months, whatever it may be. And so it does feel scarier and the things get bigger, but the outcomes also get bigger too. Mike, I remember back at the beginning of, was it 2022 or 2021? I think 2022. Right. I was going through a real rough patch with like, I was pivoting my business model from small deals to big deals. I remember like, dude, stuff was getting hard for me. It was all just the stuff that I was all self-created. Yeah. And then sure enough, a month later, we're doing 150K, 170K a month. Like that's how it works. Right. And I think in a lot of cases, it's just about staying the course, not really changing much. Cool. What were you going to say on that note?
I was just going to touch on what Mike was saying. I think that's the funny part with any business, you've got your ebbs and flows. That's just the way that it works. But with this business in particular, definitely a lag time on the work that you put in before it starts paying off. All the mailers and everything, it's going to be several weeks to a month, maybe 2 months before
maybe more
results from that. Yeah, before you even close on the property, resell, several months. So it's funny. It seems like you get in these little dips. You start going to town, just hammering in, and then all of that work then pays off big. Then everything's good. You start relaxing. You're chilling a little bit. Then all of a sudden, it starts going back down. So it's just a roller coaster. But
well, dude, that's the funny thing is like, I think everyone thinks like what they did last month is what they get this month. I mean, it's sort of like what you did like 2 or 3 months ago is what you get, right? Like you're probably feeling the effects of low mail or no mail in November and December, not what you mailed in January, right? That's always something I keep in frame. And not to get super woo-woo on you guys, but I'm like, okay, first off, whoever said this was supposed to be easy, like that's just a silly expectation that we have, is this is always supposed to be a walk in the park. And like this is our spiritual growth or our personal growth. Like sometimes you need a little friction to become better, not just in terms of business, but as a human being, right? And so it's just so funny. I always look back on my hardships with rose-colored lenses, but in the moment, it's really hard to remember that. And so I always try to keep in frame, like, you know what? Remember last time how good things were after and how much I kind of romanticized that era of hardship? I'm going to do that here again, right? So the worst thing that you can do is makes this a rash emotional decision. Like, I'm pulling marketing, I'm dialing back, because this business really is like, we have no reputation. There's like, we don't get like inbound leads that just come organically to us. We live and die by our marketing. And so I it's funny. We'll probably revisit this in April or something, and you'll be having the best month of your life. That's just how the story goes.
You almost have to. You do play that mind game with yourself, and I have to like tell myself to like enjoy this suck, right? Like I have to like love the suck, because otherwise I'll be miserable and I won't have a business. Like I have to like tell myself to just push through it. So
you could be working a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, right. It could be substantially worse. No, it could be substantially worse. And this is the stuff that calluses us and makes us better land investors, better entrepreneurs. And so it all plays in our favor. And I think that like I look back to when I first started in this business, I think it's just true for a lot of newer land investors, what I call no man's land, like that first 6 months where you're just pouring so much marketing out and work out and nothing's really coming back in. That's a hard place to walk. And you're right. Like Mike, I think the first month or two, people have got this ecstatic excitement and then they naturally hit that dip, and it's bound to happen. Then you rip, and then you dip, then you rip, and you dip, and you just do that forever. Yeah. And so it's really easy to forget that this is kind of like how our life will play out forever, I guess. I just hope we get better at handling it over time, So
yeah. I think one last thing, Summer. I think a big thing is to not compare. I tend to do this, and I think I have to tell myself not compare your business to somebody else's, right? Because there is a lot of luck in this business. Yeah. Just like naturally with any type of marketing. Like if I see somebody that's like, oh, I only sent out 3,000 mailers this month and I got a deal for like 50 grand. It's like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Like there's a lot of luck. So don't compare yourself to other people and like just stick to the plan.
No, it's so true. Luck and timing and luck are roughly the same thing, but it is so much of it is timing related, right? Yeah, that's how I felt in November. I'm like, dude, why am I comparing myself to members in the program that are in it for 3 months? I'm like getting jaded by their results because I'm just like, eating dirt right now.
Yeah,
eating no dirt because we're getting no land deals. So let's talk about competition. What do you guys think about competition in the land business? I'm curious to hear your thoughts here.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Colton.
I think it's so interesting. Like this is something that's brought up all the time. Is it getting oversaturated, or there's a lot of new programs and things like that. People are learning the business. It's the craziest thing when you start like sending out these mailers. You start talking to owners all the time. You're talking to people who they're like, yeah, I received 10 of these offers a day, and it's very clear that there's other people doing the exact same thing as you. They're sending offers here, but yet you still get deals in all of those markets. So it's like even in the most saturated markets, like the Costilla counties of the land world, you can still send out offers and get deals. It doesn't matter how many people are sending out offers. It's just about, what's your cover letter look like compared to someone else's? What's the timing of what's going on in that owner's life? It's like it works. The process works. You don't need to worry about that. Just keep sending mail.
Yeah, dude, it's such an interesting topic. I've been hearing it more and more just over the last few weeks. Just like as there's just more volume of people joining. It's not that everyone asks that, but maybe a tenth of the people ask questions around that. And it's interesting. Like I've tracked my results and KPIs really since the beginning. But what's crazy is that over the years, my yield for my mailers has gotten lower. Like we're getting more deals for our mailers, and you're like, well, how is that? And I know for certain that there's more land investors in the space. There's no doubt about that. But it's what I call operational excellency. Like I have become, and my business has become, a smooth operating machine over the years. And that's allowed us to get more yield from our marketing dollars, right? We had a lady join yesterday who was in a program where they told her just to pick a county where most land investors are working and just mail it. And so go, if you're using outdated adages like that, sure, you might feel the competition. But if you're improving as a business owner and you're really thinking about the stuff day in, day out, how to make things better, competition shouldn't even be on your mind, right? Like it's not even a concern of mine at all, because I have the numbers and I see that over time, our results are just getting substantially better. Not only are we making more money in terms of revenue and profit, but we're also getting more yield from our marketing dollars. Back in the day, it might take us 2,500 to 2,000 letters to get a deal. Now it's like we're at 1,450 letters per deal that we get, right? I think a lot of that comes down to, we gotten better at pricing and market selection, but it's really like what we do with the leads coming down. I get a boatload of letters from other land investors. Call them up, they don't pick up the phone. Leave a voicemail, they don't call you back. Like, just simple stuff, right? So simple. And so it's like, I think that we get a lot of people that are just 1 foot in and 1 foot out. The barrier to entry is so low here, but because of that, the competition is like the weakest. I will eat just about anyone's lunch in this industry that's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? The other thing that you're talking about though too, is this goes back to what's going on with you, Mike, is that like so much of what we do with direct mail is simply timing. Did our letter even make it to them? Do they even open our letter? Do they even want to sell right now? Maybe they got someone else's letter a day before, and that warmed them up to the idea of selling, and then we're the one that comes in and they sell to us. Was our offer better? We pick up the phone, was our cover letter? Like, there's so many variables at play. I had a member back in December who mailed the same market I did in Washington, literally like a week apart, and we got different deals. It's like just so crazy how that works, just because a lot of it comes down to timing. So yeah, dude, competition, not a concern. Like, if you are someone that's coming in here and you're committed and you're building a land business, you're not just trying to like get a few one-off deals and make yourself get rich quick. Don't even, like, we literally do not think about it. And this is true for any industry. Thinking of competition is an effing waste of time, right? Like, just focus on being the best operator and entrepreneur you can be. You'll get results. Occasionally, I haven't done it this year, but occasionally, like about once a year, I'll send a mailer to Costilla County, which I would say Mojave County, Costilla County, probably the most saturated counties in the industry. Dude, I still get deals. You kidding me?
Yes. Let me. I want to touch on. To me, there's like three things with competition that why I think they're good. One, like Colton and you both said, timing is huge. Timing's everything.
Yep.
Right. Like you can't control that. Two, I think a lot of times in this space, other people sending mailers is almost like free marketing for us, right? Like, these sellers have no clue who the difference between like the True Land Company or the Land Station or XYZ company. They have no idea, right? And they say like in sales it'll take whatever 7-8 touches. So a lot of times it's like almost free marketing, and they finally open on the 8th time. They're like, okay, fine, I'm ready to sell, and it happens to be your letter, right? Well, like 7 other land investors mailed them last time. So to me, it's almost like free marketing, right? It's almost like as if it's my letter. And then the third one too is there's so many bad land investors out here that it actually like helps us out a ton, right? Like, for example, I bought a lot out in Colorado a couple months ago. I bought it for like $16,000, and I sold it in a day for like $37,000. Well, I got a letter like the next week for somebody offering to buy that property for me for like $5,000. It's like these people are getting letters for $5,000, and then I mail them at $16,000. Like, that just makes my offer look great.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what causes that? It's someone pulling the whole county and pricing the whole county and just getting it flat out wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, it's such a good point though, on the note of like the free marketing side of things, right? Like, I think that is really true. And we see that the inverse of that when someone calls, it's like our first time marketing until they call us, I told you 6 times. It's like, oh, they really don't know who we are, right? And that definitely works in our favor. I think the other thing too, like if you look at like, wholesaling or fix and flip, which is probably like 20 to 30 years more saturated than where land is currently, dude, there's still guys getting deals, right? Like, and like if you look at modern day wholesale or fix and flip businesses, these guys are like, they run a freaking tight ship. Like, if you look inside these businesses, like every KPI is dialed in. They know all the stats in their business. And maybe in the 90s, they didn't have to do that. But that's what I call operational excellence. It's like, that's what's required here, but to a lesser degree. But if you are thinking about this as an entrepreneur, it's like you will have no issues, right? We see guys and girls come into the program and out of the gate just land ridiculous deals, right? It's like you're plugging into the right framework. It's not even a concern. It shouldn't be a concern. I think it's just a waste of mental bandwidth to get caught up in it. It's like, Mike's having a little bit of a slow season with mailers. That's not because of competition. That's because like, this is how the market works. It is like seasonality. It's not mailing in December and November. And I think back in the day when I would have little humps like that, I would start thinking like, has everyone else caught on? Is like the party over? No, that's not it. That's just the nature of this business. So yeah, really competition is not a concern. I mean, have you guys seen a remarkable difference in your yield for mailers over the years?
No, like honestly, over a long span, no change at all.
No change. Yeah, month to month for sure. Big swings up and down. But dude, not. If anything, it's just gotten better. So dude, it's super interesting, man. And I think that you're right, Mike. Like the barrier to entry is so low. If you're willing to just do a little bit more, you're totally fine.
And you just Christopher, my brother, and I were joking because we had mailed the exact same subdivision, and we didn't know that we did. Yeah. And we were laughing because I had an accepted purchase agreement on like I don't know, 24,000, and he had mailed it literally the same day at like 25,000. He's like, why did he not get that deal and I did? You just
Oh, no way.
Yeah. He literally mailed it like a day after I did, like $1,000 more, and I got the deal. Like you just can't really account for everything. So,
dude, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some deals that you guys are working, pipeline stuff that you're acquiring, stuff that you're selling. And Mike, I know you had some interesting deal that you're working on in Texas that you accidentally gave to your brother. That was a really good deal. What's the story with that one?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, it's funny. I complain about the rut that we're in, but things are starting to come together. So we did put that one under contract to sell. It'll sell in like a week and a half. I think we're all in like 33,000, and we had it listed at 100, and we accepted an offer at 90, I think it was. So yeah, super good deal.
Dude.
Yeah, great deal.
You gave this deal to your brother. Let's just back up here. What's the story?
I had like done the market research. I priced everything. I knew like down to the price per acre. It was a very homogeneous county. Like this was my first.
Why would you give the mailer away?
Because at the time, it was like months ago, I had like in my head, I was like, I'm gonna hit X number of mailers per month, and I had already hit it. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna do it. And he was like really struggling.
You're good, brother.
I'm such an idiot. I was like, any deal you get from there, we're gonna split.
Yeah.
So we got a deal, we split it. Funny enough, we actually mailed it again like a month ago. We got another deal that we locked up for like I think 90,000. We had to put some earnest money in, but I think it's worth like 160. So we're just gonna double close that one.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So we just got the pictures. We should get him today, actually. I think he just went out yesterday. So
wow, that's a good looking deal.
Yeah, super good deal. I think we'll just double close on it.
Do you think it'll sell fast?
Well, it has to sell fast because the seller had like a ton of pushback about a 3-month. We wanted a 3-month close date because we're going to double close it. You need a ton of pushback, right? Like I don't understand why does it take so long, and we kind of have to like smooth talk them and easy. So there was a hard cutoff on 3 months. So if we have to drop it, we have to drop it. But it'll.
How much
sell.
are you guys putting down for earnest?
$3,000. So $1,500 each.
I got an interesting deal like that in Texas. I'll talk about in a second. Cool. And what about you, man? What about those crazy flood zone lots in Colorado? Whatever became to be of those?
I think we're gonna go for it. We're gonna do a flyer. We renegotiated, got them down. Pretty much like a little less than half of what we originally offered. But
what's the final price?
One of them is gonna be like 10,000. One of them is gonna be like 8,000. Yeah.
Well.
So I mean, those are. We'll see. They're both partially wooded lots, so they're decent. Without the wetlands in there, they would be great lots. They're still like pretty decent, and I don't know how much really to factor all of that into there. I guess we'll just kind of find out.
Well, you confirmed too, they are buildable, so it's not like they're junk lots. Like you can build it, just you got to do some legwork to get it done.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So essentially, they're both like 2-acre lots. The wetlands cover the first, pretty much 50% of it off of the road there, and then it just turns it into a 1-acre wooded lot, pretty much, instead of a 2-acre partially wooded lot. We'll see what happens. I don't know how much it's going to affect it. We just decided we'll just take a flyer on it, try and just move them quickly. They're still buildable, usable lots. The wetlands are just going to be an interesting factor if somebody like really does go through the development stage on that.
Yeah.
It might be a pain in the ass. But
what do you think you're going to list them for? 20, 25?
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do a little bit less on those because I think we're just gonna try and move them quicker, just be the cheapest option there. So it will probably be somewhere around like the 17, 18 mark. So not real exciting, but I still think those would be good. We've got quite a few other lots in that area too. Like that last mailer there was pretty good. We've got I think like 6 or 7 deals.
What?
From like 2,000 mail.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What are the other deals like? Are they similar numbers?
Yeah, well, there's some that are like the other partially wooded lots. Those will be like buy for 12, sell for 25, 30.
Dude, this is like a 300 letter yield per deal. It's insane.
Good, man. It's good. Then there's some other ones. They're the larger, like 5-acre lots. Those ones aren't wooded. They're like just outside of the wooded area. But Those go for like 25, 30 each. And that was one in particular where like I overpriced. So I sent them an offer for one of their 5-acre lots for 25 grand. And then they have an adjacent lot to it. So 10 acres total. And they were like, yeah, well, will you give us an offer for both? Did the due diligence, realized that's not a wooded lot, came back and just said, I'll give you 26 for both of them. And they're like, all right, let's do it. So we can double that one down. So that's good. And then another funny one, that Washington one I mentioned on the call the other day. So this one is just a good example of trying to get as creative as possible when things aren't working out. It's a real hot area. They're smaller deals, but they sell pretty quickly over there. And we're down to like our last 2 in the area. We want to get a few more. There's one, it's like an older lady, and she's got 4 adjacent parcels over there. We've been trying to work with her back and forth. She like can't figure out email, so we can't get the contract over to her. I physically mailed the contract. It gets returned to sender. Like she'll answer 1 out of every 20 phone calls. So any sort of correspondence is like it's weeks and weeks. And so finally, I've got an uncle that lives in Washington, about 30 miles away from her. Finally got her on the phone. I was like, my uncle, I will send my uncle the contract. He will meet you in person and bring it and go sign in person. So we had him meet up on Monday.
Wow.
Finally got the contract. She like throws in a last minute little like cross out the price and add an extra $2,000 in there. I'm just like,
what?
I'm going to negotiate this because then I'm going to have to send my uncle back over there. Like,
right.
Yeah, we agreed on the price of the phone, everything. She like tells my uncle something completely different, adds an extra $2,000 on there, but it's still a good. I mean, like that one total is buy for 18, probably sell all of them for like 45, 50. So
wow, it's multiple properties.
Yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
it'll be solid, but it was just a funny situation. Sometimes you just gotta just pull every string you can to get some.
That's called making it work, man, by hell or high water. That's how you get a deal done right there. That's funny she crossed out the price though. What a savage.
I know. And like, just knowing that like I'm not,
no, dude, she understands negotiation. She had all the leverage in that moment.
Yeah.
You won't ever see me again or reach me again. This is your last chance.
Yeah.
I love that. Those are some good deals, man. That's probably like $100+ grand of potential profit there.
Yeah. So it should be pretty exciting for the next couple months here.
Yeah.
And then just need to get a bunch more out today or tomorrow. I've got a few stacked up that we just need to blast out, and those would be more Washington areas. But yeah, it's been pretty smooth so far.
That's slick, man. My second acquisition manager started like full time this Monday, and dude, he's been locking up some savage deals. He's got a couple interesting ones in his pipeline. He's got this one out in Texas. It's in a really hot area. It's funny. I'm buying I'm probably buying 1/10 of this little small town in Texas. It's a tiny town, and we're buying this deal out there for I think 80 or 85. I think it's probably worth like 200, 190 to like 220. And then this town right above it, which is like another little small podunk town, but it's like an old historic town. Like it's like a local historic Texas thing. We got this other deal for 3.9 acres to buy at 40, which is probably worth, realistically, it's probably worth like 180 or 190. The trouble is it's got 2 weird flood zones going through it. So we're trying to confirm if it's actually buildable. It's got like river frontage, which is really cool, but I just don't know the severity of the flood zone. So that one we're working through. We've got another, I've just been working Texas like a madman. We've got, so we just got a new deal. We've got this deal out in Texas. It's a 50-acre lot. Looks like we'll probably buy it for like 300, 350. As is, it's probably worth 600. We're going to subdivide it. And we'll probably get like 750 for it. We subdivide it all said and done, which is pretty exciting. And we got that 80-acre that we got yesterday. We've been getting a bunch of small lots. I got a bunch of Washington lots. I bought a whole subdivision in Washington, which is pretty crazy. I think I'm all in on every single lot for like 23 grand or maybe 25 grand. And they right by this river in Washington. It's like the whole subdivision. One of them has, or 2 of them have a well on it. I think all said and done, they're probably worth like 120 to 150, which is pretty crazy. Really interesting deal.
Do you
And then
just
yeah.
Oh, so do you just purchase that like from a developer in the area, like
Dude,
somebody?
funny story, man. So we sent mailers. We get a call from this husband and wife. They own like 4 lots, but their brother owns another 3, and then their cousin owns 4, and then their uncle owns like 2. So it's like a family tree that we went through, and they all own, like they essentially own the whole subdivision. And we just buy them off individually from them. There's only one comp out there, which is really weird. So we're buying them for an average price of like 2,700 a lot, I think. And then there's one comp from 2020, 2021 for like 15K for a smaller lot than ours. So I think today they're probably worth maybe 20. I don't know. There's nothing listed out there either, but they've got like not river frontage, but literally about 50 yards from a river, again, a big river. So I don't know. Very interesting deals. The 2 of them have wells. We got a bunch of other small, random little deals sliding in and out. Some Colorado stuff, some Arizona stuff. That big subdivide. We're working on this potential double close deal with Mayor. It's a double close subdivide deal. I'm kind of letting him run point on it because I don't really have the bandwidth to work through it. So yeah, the acquisition side has been booming. We had a really good January in terms of dispo. This month has been
Real quick before you move on to dispositions on those acquisitions, the Washington ones. I'm curious what your thought process is, or like how you're analyzing that particular market. I think that's interesting, and what a lot of the people in the group would be interested in hearing when you're trying to do market selection, an area like that with no data, one comp several years ago, no listings. What's your thought process on that? Maybe break that down.
Yeah, that's my favorite kind of purchase, man. I love deals that have some comps to show that there is demand but has no current supply. Because I can come and be a market maker. So that's like my favorite setup. But if I just look at this objectively, okay, we got a comp from 2 or 3 years ago for 15K for a smaller lot than ours. Ours are like quarter acres to like a third of an acre. I think that one was less than a quarter acre. We've got essentially not river frontage, but pretty damn close to river frontage for a major river in Washington. This isn't like some random, no one knows about this river. Like this is a real big river. Then we've got proximity like 30 minutes from a major city, big city in Washington. There's a town right up above that's like by the water, that's by the river. And they've got like some infill lots that are trading for 40, 50 grand. And they have more improvements than ours. But I just look at this from like a margin of safety standpoint. I don't know what the exact outcome is here, but I know with a margin of safety, I'm going in these for 2,700 per lot. Worst case scenario, I know I can move anything for 500 down, $200 a month, especially someone with river frontage. Like I know I've got my Hail Mary exit strategy of owner financing these, but I have a pretty good shot at moving these at least 15, which if we do the math on that, it's about 150 grand. I think there's a world where I probably moves at 20 or 25 if they're marketed appropriately, because that one that moved at 15, this is also an interesting data point. It sold in like 7 days. Right.
Mhm.
So when we look at like the land business, like even if I am in a market that has more data than this, I'm always taking little data points and putting them together to try to get a complete picture. So it's like buying them at a low enough price. I've got a margin of safety to owner finance them. I've got essentially river frontage. I've got 2 lots that have a well. I've got a comp from 3 years ago at 15K that sold in 7 days. I've got no listed supply. I've got a major city 30 minutes away. I've got a town like 10 minutes north of me where infill lots are trading for 30 or 40 grand. I mean, that's a dream situation if you ask me. You know what I mean? Like that smells like money. So it's just one of those things where I just don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I have a really, really good understanding of there's going to be money to be made here. I think this is probably a deal that 9 out of 10 land investors would pass on because it's just limited information. I always look at, like, when I'm underwriting deals, I look at it more less of what can I make and more what can I lose, right? I'm always kind of like trying to talk myself out of the deal. And so when I look at all the data points, I'm like, I think there's a real margin of safety here. So I guess that's more how I underwrite deals, less so like how much can I make? Because I can make 100 grand, or I can make 300 grand. I don't know, but I'm buying it at $27,000 and getting 10 of these lots. I think it's pretty safe.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Real interesting breakdown, because I think a lot of those are the areas where people get confused, and it is, like that's the type of market analyzation that is not that easy to just teach a step-by-step process. It's just looking at a million different data points and then making an educated guess based on what you've seen. Yep. But yeah, I think maybe diving into just those types of breakdowns and thought processes would be really helpful for people, because a lot of it is really difficult unless they're seeing a ton of market data there.
Yeah, and to be like totally honest, this is probably not a deal I would push everyone to do initially. Like this is one of those things where it's like you almost can't teach it, you just have to learn it. It's like the school of hard knocks in some shit. Like this just comes from reps, right? It's like you look. I mean, I've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of deals in submarkets. You just start to get a grasp on these things. If I was coaching someone and like they were looking at a deal like this, I mean, if I went through and looked at it with them, I would give them the confidence to move forward, which I think this is the only way to approach something like this. Like realistically, you're probably not going to have that gut instinct or intuition yourself if you're just getting started. And that's why like being in a coaching program and having insight to someone, be like, hey, I'm like 20 steps ahead of you. Let me show you how I think about this. And then you can kind of learn by seeing them go through it and get the validation on the deal. But this is like hard stuff to pick up off the rip. And I think like starting out, both for our markets and our deals, like give me the binary simple stuff where there's not much kind of variance. But as you build up your muscles, like you'll get better at kind of reading between the lines. But I would say for most folks, so this would be an impossible market to price and be a really hard deal to underwrite. And so because of that, I would just encourage like stay away for the most part. Now, if by some happenstance situation you get this in your pipeline, that's why being in a community and having other folks review it's important. I don't know if this can be taught, to be honest. I think it just comes with experience. It's like everyone's looking for the shortcut or the hack. Sometimes it's just time in the game. It's just kind of getting the reps in. The good news is there's plenty of deals out there that are way easier to underwrite than this. You know what I mean? But what's cool is like when I look at dispositions have been kind of slow this month, to be honest. Hasn't been like anything crazy. We sold 8 properties. A lot of those have been owner finance sales, but I'm finally getting back to my old ways. We got 22 properties purchased this month. So far, we're at 307,000 in acquisitions. See if we can get that up to like 400K by the end of the month. And that's my kind of holy grail metric, right? Like I just know if I'm doing the right things there, I'm putting enough money out, I'm buying the right deals, dispo will take care of itself. We certainly have an amazing pipeline coming into this month in terms of stuff that was in an inventory. So not a huge revenue month in terms of sales, but that pipeline's growing. So it's going to be a fat Q2.
Exciting stuff, man. Exciting stuff.
Cool, y'all. Anything you guys want to recap with or kind of stick a bonnet in it before we head out of here?
No, I got an interesting deal, Sumner, I just want to talk about because I know you're doing a lot of subdivisions right now, and in the course you're talking a lot about subdivisions. I know some people when they lock up a deal, sometimes the first thing that they're thinking about is like, oh, how do I subdivide this? When that's not always the best route to go. Like it's kind of similar to that Washington subdivision you're talking about, that thing, and like subdivisions, these are that you can now take in your business, like because you're still doing these like bread and butter flips, right? So now you can like take these risks of like longer hold times of a subdivision or like going out to Washington where there's no comp. So like I would just be wary of like getting a deal and like the first thought going through your head is like, I'm going to subdivide this, right? So I'm buying a deal right now out in Yavapai County. It's like a typical 40-acre lot. And I was talking to a realtor yesterday about it. And he was saying that what happened is like in November, December, nothing was selling. It was like snowing. Nobody could get to it. So everybody with these 40-acre lots started subdividing them into 10-acre lots, like just trying to get rid of them. And like now come February, there's like no 40-acre lots left. So when I brought this 40-acre deal to him, he's like, dude, you have no idea how like desirable a 40-acre lot is right now because everybody's subdivided into these like 10 and 20-acre lots. So there's just like no 40-acre lots left. So now I'm pricing it higher than I normally would have because I would just be like weary, like as like a new land investor to like look at a deal in your first thought, be like, I'm going to split this up. If it makes sense, then do it for sure. But I wouldn't like just automatically get a deal and think this is like my next step.
That's a great point. There's a really good point. I think that people just like falsely assume that subdivide means you're going to make more money. Dude, real estate first off is a local game, but like it's so market dependent. Like that's a perfect example. There's some markets that are oversaturated with small inventory. There's some markets at the places that we've been going to find subdivide candidates where there's no small inventory and there's a desperate need for it, right? And so it's like, you're spot on. People just think that like, same thing with the people that are like double close is the best strategy. It's like, no, it's an option.
It's a strategy, right?
Yeah, it's a strategy. And I just think for most people, subdivides is like you're biting off way more than you can chew on as a new land investor. And for 9 times out of 10, like subdivide candidates that you get, you're probably best off just doing a flip yourself and just doing a standard flip, or passing it off and getting an assignment fee to someone who is someone that knows subdividing, right? Because not only is it hyper market dependent, the way you underwrite it is more complex than a standard deal. You actually got to do work to that deal. It's not always as easy as just getting a survey done. Like there's a lot that can go into it, cutting roads and pulling utilities. That's like above most people's pay grade when they're first getting started. I've seen some newer land investors like looking for subdivides, or they have a subdivide looking candidate. I'm like, you're just better off just flipping this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Yavapai County is a great example of a market that's just oversaturated with small inventory. And so you won't see a big price disparity on a per acre basis for big acre and small acres. In fact, you might even see the inverse, and that's totally possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good point. Well, guys, that's a good call. I hope everyone got a little bit of a smidge of value. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. That's fine as well. We'll see you guys here on the next call. Come find us in Discord. If you want to hang out with us, it's free. Link is down below. Love to see you guys in there. Much love, y'all.
See you guys.